Listen up. The Middle East just detonated a bombshell that changes everything. In the dead of night, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis launched a full missile assault on Israel. And just like that, this war is no longer two sides fighting. It's a raging, multi-front inferno with proxies waking up and Iran's network proving it's tougher, meaner, and more dangerous than anyone predicted. If you thought this conflict was contained, think again. Hold on tight because the southern front just roared to life. Houthis break. Silence. Iran-backed rebels in Yemen fire first ballistic missile barrage at southern Israel since U.S.-Israeli war erupted, their first military operation in support of Tehran. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis shattered weeks of relative restraint on Saturday by launching a barrage of ballistic missiles aimed directly at southern Israel, marking their official entry into the expanding U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. The group, which controls significant swaths of Yemen, had largely held back from direct involvement despite earlier warnings that their fingers are on the trigger. This sudden strike represents the first confirmed Houthi military operation in solidarity with Tehran since the conflict ignited over a month ago. Houthi military spokesperson Brig. General Yahya Sari claimed full responsibility in a statement broadcast on the group's Al Masirah satellite television. He declared that the salvo of ballistic missiles targeted what he described as sensitive Israeli military sites in southern Israel. The attack was framed explicitly as support for the Islamic Republic of Iran and the broader resistance fronts operating in Lebanon, Iraq, and the Palestinian territories. Sari emphasized that the strikes came in response to ongoing attacks on infrastructure across these areas and the continuation of what the Houthis call aggression against Muslim nations. Israeli military officials quickly confirmed detecting the incoming threat from Yemen. Air raid sirens blared in parts of southern Israel, including areas near Beersheba in the Negev region. Defense systems successfully intercepted the ballistic missile before it could cause damage or casualties on the ground. No injuries were reported from this initial barrage, but the activation of alerts underscored the sudden widening of the battlefield. This move breaks a period of relative quiet from the Houthis amid the intense U.S.-Israeli campaign that has targeted Iranian nuclear facilities, military infrastructure, and leadership figures in Tehran. Until now, the Houthis had issued strong rhetorical warnings, but avoided direct kinetic action against Israel in this specific war. Their decision to fire ballistic missiles signals a calculated escalation, demonstrating that Iran's network of proxies remains capable of projecting power across multiple fronts even under heavy pressure. The timing is critical as the broader conflict enters its second month. With Israeli and American strikes having hit deep inside Iran, the Houthis intervention raises immediate questions about coordination within the so-called axis of resistance. Analysts note that the group has a proven arsenal of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones developed with Iranian assistance, honed through years of conflict in Yemen and previous Red Sea operations. Sari's statement left no ambiguity about intentions, positioning the attack as part of a unified response rather than an isolated incident. The Houthis control key territory along Yemen's western coast, giving them strategic reach toward Israel and vital maritime choke points. Their entry adds a southern dimension to the pressure already coming from Hezbollah positions in the north and other aligned militias. Less than a day after the initial ballistic missile strike, the Houthis followed up with a second wave involving cruise missiles and drones, intensifying their commitment to the fight. Yahya Sari again took to the airwaves to confirm the new operation, describing it as targeting strategic and military sites in southern Israel. This rapid succession of attacks within 24 hours underscores the group's determination to maintain momentum and keep Israeli defenses on high alert. In his follow-up declaration, Sari vowed that Houthi military operations would continue in the coming days and would not stop until the aggression against Iran, Hezbollah, and all resistance fronts across the region is halted. He linked the strikes directly to the ongoing targeting of infrastructure in Iran, Lebanon, Iraq, and Palestinian areas, framing the actions as a holy jihad battle in defense of the wider axis. Israeli forces reported intercepting additional threats in this second wave, with systems engaging both cruise missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles launched from Yemeni territory. While no significant damage or casualties were confirmed from either attack, the back-to-back launches force a reevaluation of threat levels from the south. The involvement of different weapon types, ballistic missiles in the first strike followed by slower but potentially harder to detect cruise missiles and drones, suggests a layered approach designed to test and overwhelm Israeli multi-layered air defenses. This escalation comes at a moment when the war has already stretched resources thin. Israel now contends with potential threats from multiple directions, and the Houthis' re-entry into direct action revives memories of their disruptive campaigns against international shipping in the Red Sea during previous rounds of conflict. The group's history of using relatively low-cost weapons to impose high costs on adversaries adds a dangerous asymmetric element to the current fighting. Sari's repeated emphasis on solidarity with Iran and the resistance fronts indicates a strategic decision to tie Houthi actions explicitly to the broader campaign. By launching these attacks so soon after the first, the Houthis are sending a clear signal that they intend to play an active, sustained role rather than a symbolic one. The pledges of relentless pressure keep the region on edge, with the possibility of further barrages looming as the conflict continues to evolve. The development comes as Iran has already exerted pressure on the Strait of Hormuz through strikes on commercial vessels and threats of further closures. A simultaneous or sequential disruption in both major Middle East maritime choke points would compound the economic strain already felt from the war, driving up shipping costs, insurance premiums, and energy prices worldwide. Shipping companies have begun rerouting vessels around the Cape of Good Hope in anticipation, adding thousands of miles and weeks to journeys. Israeli and U.S. officials are monitoring the situation closely, recognizing that Houthi capabilities demonstrated in past Red Sea campaigns could quickly translate into renewed attacks on merchant shipping. The group's history shows a pattern of using relatively inexpensive weapons to impose disproportionate costs on adversaries and global commerce. Analysts warn that even limited strikes or credible threats could force naval escorts and further militarization of the area, echoing the disruptions seen in 2023-2024 that affected supply chains from Asia to Europe. Israeli air defense systems successfully knocked down the Houthi-launched ballistic missiles targeting southern Israel, including areas near the Negev region. Each successful interception, however, comes at a steep price as high-end systems like Arrow and David's Sling expend costly munitions designed for long-range threats. Military analysts note that repeated barrages force Israel into a state of perpetual high alert, with sirens disrupting civilian life across multiple regions and requiring rapid response from crews operating under sustained pressure. Houthi spokesperson Yahya Sari claimed the strikes hit sensitive military sites, positioning them as direct support for Iran amid the ongoing U.S.-Israeli campaign. Even when intercepted, the launches demonstrate Iran's ability to activate proxies and maintain momentum deep into the second month of conflict. This pattern drains interceptor stockpiles, strains logistics for resupply, and keeps Israeli command focused on multiple vectors simultaneously, from Yemen in the south to Hezbollah positions in the north. The psychological impact extends beyond immediate defense costs. Constant alerts erode public confidence in routine safety, while the global audience sees that despite heavy strikes on Iranian targets, the resistance network can still project threats across borders. Each wave signals resilience and the potential for prolonged asymmetric warfare that turns expensive defensive technology against the defender's resources over time. Houthi military spokesperson Brig. General Yahya Sari declared that the ballistic missile barrage from Yemen targeted sensitive Israeli military sites in southern Israel as an act of solidarity with Tehran and the wider resistance fronts. In statements broadcast on Al Masirah television, the group explicitly linked the operation to ongoing strikes against Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, and Palestinian factions in Gaza, framing the attacks as part of a unified resistance campaign. This marks a deliberate escalation by Iran's proxy network, transforming what began as a direct confrontation between Israel, the U.S., and Iran into a multi-nation theater involving coordinated pushback from distant allies. The Houthis, controlling large parts of Yemen, bring their battle-hardened arsenal, developed with Iranian assistance, into play, opening a southern axis that complements threats from the north and east. By claiming strikes on strategic Israeli targets, the Houthis elevate their role from peripheral actor to active participant in the broader fight. Sari's vows of continued operations until the aggression ends tie the actions directly to Tehran's interests, showing how proxy forces can extend Iran's reach without requiring direct Iranian launches in every instance. The development underscores a strategy of horizontal escalation, where pressure on the Iranian homeland prompts responses across the region to complicate Israeli and American decision-making. Despite intense U.S. and Israeli airstrikes that targeted Iranian nuclear facilities and key military infrastructure over the past month, Iran's influence through its network of proxies appears undiminished. The Houthis ballistic missile launches from Yemen, described as their first direct military operation in support of Tehran, illustrate a pattern of horizontal escalation where pressure on the Iranian homeland prompts responses from distant allies. Houthi spokesperson Yahya Sari explicitly linked the attacks to solidarity with Iran and resistance fronts in Lebanon, Iraq, and Gaza. On paper, the campaign against Iran has delivered significant blows to its strategic assets. Yet the rapid activation of the Houthis, firing missiles at southern Israel and vowing more in the coming days, shows that Tehran's distributed proxy model allows it to absorb direct hits while maintaining offensive pressure across multiple theaters. Each proxy strike forces Israel to expend expensive air defense munitions, stretch resources thin, and confront threats from Yemen in the south, Hezbollah in the north, and other groups in between. This approach raises the overall cost of confrontation for the U.S. and Israel, turning a potential quick campaign into a sustained, multi-front conflict. The Houthis entry, combined with continued activity from other aligned militias, suggests that Iran's strategy of leveraging regional partners is proving resilient even under heavy bombardment. Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari has pledged that operations against Israel will continue in the coming days until the aggression against Iran and resistance fronts ends. Following the initial ballistic missile barrage and a second wave of cruise missiles and drones within 24 hours, the group shows no sign of backing down, raising immediate fears of broader escalation across the region. The Middle East now stands on edge as the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran enters its second month. One intercepted barrage from Yemen today could quickly lead to renewed Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Bab al-Mandab Strait and Red Sea, a tactic the group has used effectively in the past to disrupt global trade. Such moves would compound pressure already building from potential Iranian threats to the Strait of Hormuz. Additional proxies, including Hezbollah remnants in Lebanon and Shia militias in Iraq, remain capable of opening or intensifying their own fronts. The combination risks turning the conflict into a fully regional war, with Israeli defenses stretched across multiple directions and international shipping facing heightened threats. Analysts are closely watching whether further proxy activations or direct responses will push the situation toward even greater chaos in the days ahead. From the Houthis shattering the silence with ballistic barrages to the second wave of cruise missiles and drones, Israel's thinning defenses on a new third front, the Red Sea threat roaring back, the axis of resistance rising from the ashes, psychological warfare draining interceptors, Iran's proxy power play turning this into a regional resistance war, the burning question of whether Tehran is actually emerging stronger. Every single piece we just broke down proves this conflict is spreading like wildfire. The costs are exploding and peace feels farther away than ever. You're watching the Amna Desk. Stay locked in. The next move could change the world.